everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Valentina and I read sometimes, and today I'm going to be sharing with you my favorite books of 2020. The theme for this video is books that brought me joy. These were of course all 5-star reads, but the main factor that I think plays into this is that they all just made me very happy. And also they are books that I've been thinking about a lot and that stayed with me and that impacted me in one way or another. So I have 5 books to show you and 1 honorable mention. Actually, there are 6 books and 1 honorable mention, but I am counting 2 of those as one single thing. So that's why 5 books and 1 honorable mention. This list is in no particular order except for the very first book that I will be showing you. The first one is my absolute favorite one, the best book I read in the entirety of 2020. I love this book to pieces. So this one is like my favorite, the best of the best. But the rest of them are like random order. They are not in no particular hierarchical order whatsoever. Now, let's dive in. The first place goes to Los Autonautas de la Cosmopista o Un viaje temporal París-Marsella by Julio Cortázar and Carol Dunlop. This one has thankfully been translated to English so that you can read it too if you don't speak Spanish, and it's called Autonauts of the Cosmoroute. Okay, first of all, there are 2 things that I should get out of the way. The first is that Julio Cortázar is my favorite author, so I think it was a bit obvious that this book was going to be my very favorite one. And the second thing is that Julio and Carol were partners, so they co-wrote this book together, but Carol was terminally ill and she passed away right before the book was published. Now, how do I describe this book? Well, the authors embarked themselves on a journey that only they two could have thought of. A journey that takes place exclusively on the freeway from Paris to Marseille over a month. They're not allowed to leave the freeway in this entire month, and they have to stop throughout, when you're driving in the freeway and there are like gas stations or motels, like these type of things that are next to the freeway, there are 65 of those stops along the way and they have to stop in every single one. So they do 2 stops a day for an entire month. What they do at those stops is either camp in their car because they are traveling in a camping car and they have supplies and everything for the entire month, or if there's a motel or something, they can like sleep there and eat at the restaurant and stuff. And they could, if there was like a little space to explore, then they would explore, like if there was a garden or something, but they were not allowed to go farther than that because as they said, like the rules of the games were not leaving the freeway. Now, the premise, just from the beginning, it sounds really crazy. And it is a wild expedition between the worlds of fantasy and reality, because you could think that this is a non-fiction book, but it isn't, like not really. So you find the book is written in many different formats. So you have, for example, pictures of the travels and like the people and stuff. You have maps. The maps were drawn by Carol's son. So those are maps of the stops that they were at, or that they were encountering along the way. Then you have logbooks. So just like travelers that go in expeditions, they were writing like, okay, what happened when they woke up and what the weather was like and all these things, and then like recording what was happening at every hour, let's say, from one stop to the next. They also have, at the very beginning, they wrote a letter to like the government institution that is in charge of the freeway. I don't know if that letter is fictionalized or not, but I wouldn't really doubt Julio Cortázar. Like, I'm pretty sure he could have sent that letter. No one would have replied, of course, but he probably did send that letter. There's also fictionalized letters. So there's a character that is writing letters to his son, and it's a character that sees these two, like Julio and Carol, on their travels, and every time she like stops somewhere, they are there, and she's like, who are these people, what are they doing? And she has like a whole story, like a backstory of herself, and you're getting that through these letters. And you also have just sections where they write thoughts and reflections and just random things. So you can never really know where to draw the line with reality and fiction, because they never do. And it's like it's just a big game. Everything is a big game to them. They also had friends that were so fascinated by the idea of their travels that they would just grab their cars and go from Paris to Marseille and stop at every single one of those stops to look for them. And then when they found them, they would just hang out with them, give them more supplies, and then leave. And they had other friends that were scheduled to meet at a certain point after 15 days to give them more supplies, because the car was not big enough to keep enough food for an entire month. But yeah, for example, here are some friends that came to visit them. Okay, what else can I say about this book? Well, the book is a travel book, but it's also a love story, and a very sad story, because as we know, Carol dies at the end. And like, it's the last big adventure that they got to do together before she passed away. And it's such a lovely love story. It's so pure, it's so real, it's so raw. It's also so mundane, because nothing really happens. You know, they're on the freeway and they're stopping, and it's the same every day, but at the same time it isn't. It's just like a big adventure somehow. And it's just so fun to read. And well, as you can see from all the tabs, I loved the writing. I think the writing is just stellar. I felt so connected to the characters. Also, Julio had a very deep connection and relationship with Nicaragua. He even wrote a book about Nicaragua called Nicaragua tan violentamente dulce. And I don't know, I feel very connected every time I read anything written by him. And I don't know, I thought their love story was beautiful. The book was beautiful. The travel idea, the whole concept is crazy. And the concept came together with writing a book. It wasn't just let's do this thing. Let's travel in the freeway. The idea of this expedition came together with the idea of writing a book. So they go hand in hand. It's not like they would have done that without writing the book, or they would have written the book without doing that. So yeah, I don't know. I obviously cried at the end. I don't know if I've said that already. And I was actually reading this book in a train. And I was like, Valentina, get it together. You cannot cry here. And I got home and I reread the final part, and I cried. And oh man, it's just so much. I love it so much. I don't know if you, being a person that has never read Julio Cortázar, or Julio Cortázar is your favorite person, if you would connect with this as much. But I think you would, because it's just so crazy. And it's seriously, tell me if you have ever heard of anything like this. I bet you haven't. So just by that logic, I think you should read it, because it's something so unique. And yeah, seriously, it's just something that only Julio Cortázar could have crafted. I don't know what else to say. I love this book so much. It's my favorite one. And yeah, I love it. I love it so much. I highly, highly, highly recommend it. And it obviously, even though it was sad at the end, it brought me so much joy. I hope I convinced you to read that one, because that was a long moment of just raving about Julio Cortázar and los Autonautas de la cosmopista. Now I'll move on to the two books that I said count as one. And those obviously are Heartstopper by Alice Oseman, Volume 1 and 2. In this comic series, we follow a gay teenager called Charlie who befriends a not yet out bisexual rugby player at his high school called Nick. So in the first book, we see how their friendship develops, and then how they start having feelings for each other, and how this is confusing and what happens with that. And then in the second one, we see how their relationship evolves, and we also see how Nick is coming to terms with his bisexuality, and we meet a lot of side characters as well. So we are introduced to Charlie's group of friends, and we get to see more of different friends and different characters, and that was really nice. I would say that these books are very wholesome. The characters are super lovable. Charlie's friend group is very nice, and it has a very diverse cast. I don't know if cast is what you say, but you have all sorts of representation, all sorts of LGBTQIA plus. Well, the A is not there yet, I think, and I don't know with the I, but I'm rambling. You have a trans character, you have a bisexual character, a gay character, 2 lesbian characters. So yeah, a lot of different representation. And if I could describe this comic series with one word, I mean, the feeling that it gives to me or just what it means to me, I would say it is kindness. Because everyone in this book, seriously, everyone except for the bullies, of course, are just so kind. Everyone is so kind and lovely. And I think that's what makes this book so heartwarming and what makes Heartstopper what it is. That the characters are all so kind and understanding and there for each other. And yeah, I mean, of course the love story is cute and all, but I think this kindness of the characters is what makes it such a great book, or at least what made it so great to me. So yeah, Heartstopper, very heartwarming, very light read, would recommend. Then I got a graphic novel, and that is Almost American Girl by Robin Ha. This is an autobiographical graphic novel. In this one, we follow Robin's life as she's moving away from South Korea to the United States without speaking a word of English, leaving everything behind, her friends, her comic books, her life, and how she comes to terms with this new family, with this new culture, with this new language, new school, new everything. The book deals with topics like identity, belonging, family dynamics, self-confidence, finding yourself, and coming to terms with living in a new place and becoming a part of it, and also letting that place become a part of yourself. I love this book so much because the ending especially has just a message that connected with me very deeply, and I saw myself reflected in it. I also think that, I don't know, it's a book that impacted me somehow because I have thought about it a lot this year. That just has stayed with me. It's a story that has stayed with me, and it's a real life story, so it's like, you know, it's an autobiography that has stayed with me. I also think the art is stunning. I love it so much. I don't know, just look at it. I think just if you're not like called by the story, I think the art should be enough to get you hooked. This one is my favorite page of the book. But yeah, I love it a lot, and also I think I have some sort of sentimental value for this book because my partner gave it to me for my birthday and he drew Rilakuma. Look at it, so cute. So I love Rilakuma and I love Almost American Girl, and I don't know what else to say other than I've talked about it a lot in my channel, I think, already. I think you should read it if you haven't. And yeah, what is there more to say? Read Almost American Girl. Or not, you just can appreciate the fact that I loved it and that it brought me so much joy. The next 2 books are books that I don't actually own physically because I borrowed the audiobooks from my library, and yeah, let's talk about them. The first one is Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Here we follow a rock band in the 70s, how they came to be, how they produced music, the dynamics between the members of the band, how addiction played a role in the life of many of them, and at what kind of negative repercussions that had in them personally and in the band in the end. By the way, the band is called Daisy Jones and the Six. We also get the perspectives of not only the band members, but their family members, their managers, friends, and just external people that worked with them, and I thought that was really cool. The book is written in interview form, so when listening to the audiobook, they actually got a full cast, and that was amazing because I just gave it another layer of reality. Like seriously, it was like watching a documentary of a real band, and I felt like I needed to listen to the songs and I just needed to hear more, and it was just so engaging and compelling, and I highly recommend it. I think Taylor Jenkins Reid really has such a way with crafting a story and keeping you hooked. Like you are there till the very end and you just need more. I needed more. I needed the songs. I was just like, I couldn't stop listening to the audiobook. And right now I'm reading The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, and I can confirm this woman just has something like this. She knows how to write good stories. That I can tell. The next book is, I think no one will be surprised if you have watched my reading journal. It is a contemporary romance. Maybe you're noticing a pattern here that I like a lot of like love stories and romances. And that book is none other than Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. This novel, my God. Okay, just listen to this. We have a bisexual and Chicano main character called Alex, who is the son of the first female president of the United States, who falls in love with the secretly gay Prince of England. Like, come on. Just with that description, you should be sold already. But okay, let's keep going. We see life inside of the White House and the Buckingham Palace. We get to see family dynamics behind restrictions and protocols, and we get to relish on two enemies becoming lovers, and oh my God, is it so good. The characters are super lovable. It's a so funny rom-com. You really won't want to stop listening or turning the pages because it's just so good. It just keeps you hooked the entire time, and it's overall such a fluffy and fun romance. And honestly, after a year like 2020, I think this is what we deserve and what we should be reading. Things that make us happy and warm inside and that fill us with joy. And yeah, I mean, how could this book not reach my top 5 books of the year list if it just made me so happy? Like, all of these books made me so happy, and yeah, they just made 2020 better. That's the tea, man. That's the tea. And now, last but not least, my honorable mention. This is a book that I wouldn't necessarily say the book itself is one of my favorite books that I've ever read or one of my favorite books of the year, but the writing. The writing, man. Oh boy. I'm talking about Primera Persona by Margarita García Robayo. Loosely translated, this will be called First Person, but I am pretty sure this one hasn't been translated yet. It should be though, because it is really good. Although I don't know if you will get the same experience reading it like in another language. But I don't know, I haven't read Margarita in another language. I'm rambling. This book is a collection of autofiction essays, and I just loved the writing. I think Margarita has just such a way with words, not only when she like writes, but when she speaks, because it's a book that I read with my book club and we got to interview her, and she's just so smart, so eloquent, so unfiltered. Everything she says and she writes is so raw, and I think this is like the type of writing that you see yourself so reflected in, that like this book is like holding a mirror up to your face. It's crazy. It's so good. I thoroughly enjoyed it. The reading experience was 10 out of 10 because this writing, man, loved it so much. I would highly recommend reading her books. I haven't read her fiction, but this autobiographical fiction is, I think it's more non-fiction than fiction, but she wouldn't say where to draw the line, so that's why I said autofiction. But yes, I would highly recommend these essays, or just checking out anything by her. Her fiction works have been translated. Yeah, she's a Colombian writer and she's amazing. I admire her a lot. I am a big fan. And if you happen to get this one, I would highly recommend getting it from this publishing house as well. Tránsito Editorial. This is an independent, women-owned and led publishing house in Spain, and they only publish women, and I think they do really marvelous work, and I think we should be supporting them. So if you have the chance to buy things from Tránsito, and if you want to check out Margarita García Robayo, then I would highly recommend both those things, the author and the publishing house. Those were my babies, my favorites of the year. I was very happy reading these bookies right here and the ones that I listened to. Yeah, I think there's not much more to say. I've said enough in this video. Let me know what your best books of 2020 were. What was your favorite read of the year? What was your worst read? Maybe I'm gonna be making one of those videos as well, because boy, I read some bad books as well. But today we're just talking about the positives. So let me know what were the highlights of your reading year. What filled you with joy, what made you feel so warm and fuzzy inside, and if nothing did, then I would recommend checking one of these out, because I assure you this will. So that was it from me. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, bye!